G'day everyone, it's Josh from Slat-Co, and today we're going to be going through another video running through the assembly and installation of a Verti-Slat or picket gate. So to start off with, I'm going to run through the tools that you will need. So first of all, impact driver to run in the tech screws. Second, a drop saw. This is a very entry level drop saw. I've gone ahead and changed out the standard timber blade with an aluminium specific blade. This will help cutting the aluminium a hell of a lot better. The other things you'll need is just a rubber mallet, a tape measure, and a scribe. So firstly, we're going to build the frame, and in these sorts of gates, you're going to build it out of a 50 by 50 post section. So what we need to do is make a mitered frame. So I'm going to set our saw up now at 45 degrees so we can cut our miter. So I'm just clamping it on there so it stays nice and straight. So I've just mitered that section now. I'm going to go ahead and scribe where we want to cut the next miter. As you can see, that's a mitered section of the frame. Now that's going to be our top member. We're also going to make another bottom member and then two side members, and then we're going to join them all together. So luckily I've gone ahead and prepared the remaining sections of the frame earlier so we can continue putting the frame together. So I'm just laying the frame out here. Actually going to put the frame this way so it fits on the table. So now that we've laid the frame out, we're going to go ahead and join it using the miter joiners, as you can see there. Each end just slips into the miter and it joins the frame. So now that it's roughly together and the miter joiners are in the corners, what I'm going to do is just grab the frame, stand it up, and just continue knocking the miter joiners together using a block of wood and a hammer. So now that I've used a mallet and a block of wood to close those corners up, I'm now going to put a panhead screw just on each side of the corner to make sure that the frame can't move over time. I'd recommend drilling a pilot hole into the frame and joiner before putting the screw in. Okay, so now that we've got our frame together and it's all fixed in place, we need to add the self-covering angle to the top and bottom rail of the gate so we can fix our slats in place. Now it's a good thing to note that the frame is a 50 by 50, so whatever width you made your gate, you need to subtract 100 millimeters off to work out the width of your self-covering angle. Now I'm just going to mark where I need my angle. You're going to need 2 bits of angle for top and bottom, so 4 in total. So now I'm just going to stand our gate up and I'm going to show you the angle is going to fix just on the inside of the frame, like so. So now once we've got our angle in place, we just want to tech screw it back into the frame to secure it in place. Okay, so now our angle's in place, like so. We're going to do the same on the other end of the gate. Now that we've got the first 2 self-covering angles in place, it's now time to fix the slats onto the gate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the frame for just a second, and I'm going to get our slats, which I've prepared earlier. Now, so I've designed it so the slats are going to overhang the top of the frame by about 150 millimeters each way. So I'm going to first lay the slats out. And for example only, on this gate, we're going to be doing half the slats in picket style, so flat, and half the slats in Verti-Slat style, so on their narrow edge, like a blade. So I'm just laying them out here on a flat surface, and I'm going to go ahead and put a 20 millimeter spacing between each one. I'm also going to get a straight edge and ensure the slats are all lined up straight. And so now I'm going to get my frame and simply lay it over the top. So I'm just measuring there to ensure that the slats have overhung an equal amount on each end. And now that I'm happy with it and it's square, I'm going to go ahead and put a Tek screw into each slat. Through the back of the angle, we're just going to go ahead and put a Tek screw through. Once all those slats are fixed in place, I can pull the packers out, and the picket half of our gate is done. As you can see there. Now we're going to move on to the vertical slat part of our gate. We're going to use a 65mm slat, however in the blade orientation, as you can see here. And instead of a 20mm gap, I'm going to use a 65mm gap between blades. That way you can use an off-cut 65mm slat as a spacer between each blade. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay these out. So again, I'm just going to get my gate frame. So now that I'm happy with the alignment, again, I'm just going to go ahead and fix through the back of that self-covering angle into each slat. Now, as this is a display gate, I've only bothered to put one 10x16 screw through the angle into each slat, both top and bottom. But when you're doing these gates at home, for best results and longevity, I strongly advise you put 2 Tek screws per slat, top and bottom. So 4 screws per slat in total. Now, this is not a problem at all when you're just using the slats in the picket style like this. It's very easy just to put 2 10x16 screws through the angle into each slat, no problem at all. But you do run into a problem when you have the slats in Verti-Slat style. And that is that you can't fit 2 10x16 Tek screws side by side in the angle fixing into the slat. Now, the easiest way around that is simply just go to an 8-gauge screw rather than a 10-gauge screw. So I've got a little mock-up panel here. As you can see, we've used a 10x16 screw, screwing the angle into the frame. And for the slats, we've used 2 8-gauge screws. That way you can fit them side by side within the angle, holding that slat in place. So even if one of these screws ever comes loose, you've still got another one there holding that slat on nice and tight. All right, so now that we've got all our slats fixed in place, the next thing to do is grab the second part of the self-covering angle and clip it over the screws holding the slats in place. The profile is clipped together. It's very simple. You basically just get the angle, line it up, clip it over the existing angle there, grab a bit of wood and a hammer, and there we go. That's all clipped on. And I'm going to do the same for this side. Once it's resting in place, hammer and block of wood. And it's all clipped in place. And all those fixings are covered now, so you can't see them. The next thing I'm going to do is insert the caps. Now, these are just the black plastic caps, but on request, we can get color matched caps. So if you did want surf mist caps for this gate, get in touch and we can get color matched caps. And if you were doing this in a spearhead style, instead of the black plastic caps, you'd simply just knock the spearhead in there. The last thing that you would go and do is just get a bit of touch-up paint and a cotton wool bud and just run over the top of that panhead screw there. It'll pretty much hide it and you'll hardly notice it. And so now that's pretty much the completed version of either the Verti-Slat or picket gate, depending on your style. And as you can see there, fully framed, all those screws are hidden along there with that self-covering angle. So this gate's pretty much ready to hinge. So stay tuned for the next bit where we'll be hanging and installing this gate. Alright, so we're back on site now, and the first thing we need to do to get a gate hung is sort our posts out. So one post is going to bolt to a brick pier, and on the other side we're going to have a post which is going to fix into a timber sleeper at the base of a colorbond fence. Often though, you wouldn't have the luxury of a timber sleeper being there, and you'd have to concrete a post in 600mm into the ground. We recommend you leave a 50mm gap between the gate and ground. That's why we've cut our post 50mm longer than the height of our gate here. Now for any post that's going to be bolted against a wall, go ahead and pre-drill with a 10mm drill bit. Now go ahead and use a spirit level to ensure the post is level. Hold it in place and mark it down the side of the post with a pencil so you know where it needs to go. With your post lined up as plumb, use a drill and a 10mm masonry drill bit just to mark the brickwork on each of the holes. You can now remove the post and continue drilling the holes. For this, we're using a 50mm post and 120mm bolts, so our hole will need to be a minimum of 70mm deep.
Okay, a bit of a trade secret is to cut that little washer off the top of the plug, and then so it doesn't fit flush on top of the post. There we go.
Alright, so now we're going to grab our 120mm long Mungo bolt and plug, and I'm just going to put the plug all the way through the post, back into the hole that we've just drilled, and then I'm just going to put the end of the bolt in there, grab my hammer, tap the plug in. Alright, so now that you've got your plug and bolt set up, you can either get your rattle gun with a 13mm socket or a ratchet. You're more likely to have one of these at home, and just start doing that bolt up. Once you've run the top bolt in and you're happy with the post, go ahead and do the same with the middle and bottom bolts. For a standard 1.8 high gate, we suggest you use 3 bolts. So now once the hinge post is in place, we're going to go ahead and actually hang the gate. We find hanging the gate before installing the latch post helps us line the latch post up and get it in the exact spot we need. As you can see here, we've just opened up a pack of heavy duty D&D true close hinges. We find them to be a great hinge for any sort of pedestrian gate.
And the hinges have got a flat one side, flat there, but they've also got a ridge there, and we put the ridge hard into the corner of the gate each time. So we put it in there like that. We line up that there with the bottom of that there, get that right. And then off the website we have these 3/8 techs that we use to hold the hinges on.
So as you can see here, we're just lining the gate up with the post we've installed. We're using 50x50 post sections as packers below the gate to pack the gate up by 50mm to give enough ground clearance. As you can see there, the top of the gate lines up nicely with the top of the post. So we're happy with how this is sitting at the moment. Now what we're going to do is just measure about 15mm from the gate to the post, as that's the standard distance we like to leave for the D&D true close hinges between the post and the gate.
15mm, and then put one screw in. Perfect. I'm getting some packers here so I can put the between the gate and the post and get the gap even between the gate and the post. So that's at the top. We've got a 15mm packer in the top there. So then at the bottom, we'll take all the packers out, and then we'll rest it down onto the packers there. That's it, perfect. And then I'll be able to put the screw into the bottom, and then we'll get it absolutely perfect. You can see the dog's not very happy because he can't get out, and that's the whole idea, mate. There's the gate swinging, no problem at all. All right then, out you go, Harley. You can go now if you want. There he goes, he's happy now. All right. So once we've got the gate up like that, we've got to put the post in on the other side, and we'll start with that now. So normally we would concrete the post into the ground here, But in this situation it's difficult because there's timber sleepers down there and a bit of retaining and a whole lot of trouble underneath there. So this time we'll just fix it to the top of the fence and we'll put a bracket, internal bracket, onto the sleeper, up into the post there to hold the post. It's not a load bearing, it's not a hinge side, it's a latch side, so it'll be quite fine. But we always recommend that the hinge post always gets bolted to the house or a brick wall or some type of masonry upright, or if you're going to not have the house there, you'll need a larger post, and that's fine. You can always get in contact with us and get custom sized posts. We have 65, 75 and 100mm posts, which will do most of your problems.
So now we've just lined the post up with the fence, and thank goodness we've made the gate the correct width, because 15mm fits in perfectly between the post and the gate. Now we can just move the gate away, and we've put our concealed fixing there. The post is just going to drop over the top, holding it in place. And now at the top of the gate, we're just going to put a Tech screw through the top of the post back into the ColourBond fence. So now the gate's all lined up. We've got 15mm gaps either side. It's time to install the Latch Deluxe. As you can see here is a dual mechanism latch that you can operate from either side of the gate, which is fantastic, and it's lockable on either side. It works through a shaft that is run through the post, meaning when the button is operated on one side, it releases the latch on the other. So to start off with here, we're just marking the height we want the latch to be all the way around the post. And after we've done that, we're going to measure and mark in 19mm from the edge of the post at the height we've marked, just so we know where to drill our hole for the connecting shaft. As you can see here, we've just used a 20mm hole saw to drill out either side of the post so we can fit the button on the front of the post, and now we're just using one screw to hold it in place in case we have to adjust it once the latch is on.
So now you've got to push that right in there. You get that over the top like that. Okay, make sure it all works like that. Okay, just check it's operating. That's good. Make sure it locks before we do anything. Yep, locks, all good. Now we can actually finish it off and put all the screws in.
Once the latch is installed, we can now install the keeper arm to the gate. Just close the gate, line it up with the post and put the keeper in place. Mark the top of it with a pencil so you can easily come back and fix it. I also should note that the Latch Deluxe kit comes with all the fixings that you need to install the latch and keeper.
So line that up with your mark there. Put the first one in there and try it now. That seems to be working fantastic.
And if the gate does need more tension, you can adjust the true close hinges with a flathead screwdriver there. You can adjust the tension on them. Alright, so now this gate is pretty much done. The last thing you might want to do is just use a bit of touch-up paint, touch up the bolt heads on the posts and any other marks that you may have left on the gate that are worth touching up. Now, if you made it to the end of our very amateur video, thank you very much. I hope we were able to provide some sort of information to you. And if you had any queries at all about how this system goes together, don't hesitate to get in contact with us. Cheers.